So watch the previous videos to get caught up to this point, okay? All right, so now what we want to do is we want to add a nose. So I'm going to turn on the cheetah. I'm going to move that to the top of the list on the layer. So we've got the cheetah, and I'm going to zoom in and take a look at the nose. And I'm going to go to my magic wand tool, and I like to have contiguous already selected. So and the tolerance, maybe 16 or 32 would be fine. That tolerance means how picky is the magic wand tool going to be when it selects things. So I'll click on the black nose here, make sure I'm in add mode. This would be one way to do it. Of course, we can also zoom in, grab the lasso tool, and while I'm in unite mode or add mode, I can also select it like this. Not bad. Okay. And I'll subtract down here. It's not bad. All right, and what I'll do is I got it feathered 6 pixels. That's pretty good. So now I can go to edit, copy, edit, paste. Now make sure you're on the cheetah layer when you do this. Otherwise it'll copy paste something else in the shape of a nose. So paste. Now I can go to my move tool and I've got a copy of the nose. Okay. So let's turn off the cheetah layer and zoom out. I can change the name of that layer to nose. Zoom in here, and now what I want to do is I want to resize the nose a little bit. If you go to the corner, you can rotate, and I want to put it to somewhere where it looks good, like that. Okay. And now when I zoom in on it, though, it doesn't look that good. If I turn the one tip is turn the eyeball on and off, and you can see what's really going on. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put a raster mask on that nose layer. So it's something we're going to use a lot. So I'm going to go to layer, raster mask, reveal all. There we have it. Now I'll go to my brush tool. You can click B for brush and go to black down here. And I'm already on a fuzzy brush, so what this will let me do is do a little bit of cleanup. Kind of use the edge of a fuzzy brush, kind of right here to get a little bit of a natural fade. Get a little bit of a blend. And there's some stuff out here I didn't actually need. If there's anything you need to do to adjust it, make it look a little nicer, you can do that. Just a little bit of cleaning up. It's like erasing, but remember it's not permanent. Okay. If you need to move the nose, you can do it that way too. Now the nose looks a little bit kind of blue to me. It's a weird color. So I'm going to go to image and go to adjustments, and how about levels? Image adjustments, levels, and then we have these 3 little sliders, and if you move the middle one, oh, you know, it's not doing anything because I'm on the layer mask, so I'm going to hit cancel. And over here, I'm on the layer mask, but if I click on the picture side of the layer, now it should work. So image, adjustments, levels. Now we have what's called a histogram. Now I can move these 3 squares. So if I move the square, you can see what happens to the nose. If I move the white one, it makes the brights brighter. If I move the black one, it makes the darks deeper. So what I'm trying to do is see if there's anything I can do to get it to sort of match a little more. Something like that. And let's see, what else could we do? adjustments, and then there's color balance. So if it looks a little too blue, I can turn some blue down. Oh, that's too much. It looks yellow, doesn't it? But I can adjust it so it looks a little bit more like this other stuff here. Actually, I like that. And the preview button lets you see the difference. So if you don't have time for all this, that's okay. I just want you to kind of see what some potential is. Hit OK. Now we'll zoom out. And now it's got a nose. Now I'm not loving how it looks near this glare, so I'm going to go back to the layer mask and go to my brush and just a little bit more. Now the brush up top, it has flow and opacity. If you lower the opacity down a lot, what it does is it gives you a gentler approach. It's not as strong. And now I feel like that is matching up to the glare a little bit better. Just don't forget to put your opacity back up to 100% for later. Okay, so how about an eye? So let's go back to our cheetah. And let's come in here. And let's find the eye. And maybe I can do the magic wand again. Click in there. It's pretty good. Now another thing I can do is I can feather this edge a tiny bit. This is the edge of the selection itself. And then when I hit Command C, Command V, I have now pasted that. Oops, I haven't, have I? All right, let me hit undo. Okay, let's try that again. I'm on the cheetah layer. I'll just be safe and go edit, copy, edit, paste. There we go. Now on the move layer, got an eye. Okay, so let's make that guy invisible. See what we can do. Let's put it over here. Lower it a little bit. Try to get nice and zoomed in here for you. That's good. All right, so when I click onto another tool like the lasso tool, it makes that box go away, so that's cool. But I'm looking at it and it looks a little bit fake and so forth. So one thing we can do is we can do more adjustments. Let's say I go back to levels, for example, and I want to make it a lot maybe deeper and darker. Okay. Or I can actually move these. There we go. That's a little bit better. And then it has these weird little fringes. So another option is we go to filter. We can go to blur, and there's this one step called Gaussian blur. This is a really useful blur. And I'm going to choose it. And you can, if you blur it too much, it's too much. But you can move this slider. Oops. See, you can't even see it if you move it, if you blur it all the way up there. So you can see this thing's giving me a little bit of trouble. Let it catch up a little bit. There we go. That's one way to handle it. Actually, I think I'm going to just do it a little bit, and then I'm going to put another raster mask on the eye itself. Go back to my brush tool. I'm just going to soften it a little bit. Some little tiny fringes out here. Okay. Now, there's this other situation going on right now where the eye itself, it looks really dark, right? And you can actually change the translucency or the opacity of a layer. So I'm going to go double click, make sure I'm clicked on the eye part of the layer. Let me label this layer eye. There we go. Remember, if you're on the raster mask, it does one thing. If you're on the layer, it does another thing. So now that I'm on the layer, right up here, there's this thing called opacity on the layers palette. And not fill, I'm going to do opacity. It's at 100%. But you can lower it. Look what happens to the eye. It kind of makes it see-through. Now, I don't want it totally see-through, but I feel like if I pull it down to like 95%, maybe 80%, something like that, it kind of makes the eye feel like it's working, it's blending more in there. And it looks a little bit less fake to me, okay? That sounds like a weird thing to say, but it does. Okay, so now when I zoom out, it looks like the apple has a nose and an eye. Okay, right. Okay, so I'm going to stop this lesson today, and I just want you to get this far and try to make it look as good as possible. And tomorrow we will okay, so the next thing I want to throw on are some spots. So if we bring the cheetah back up, by the way, if your cheetah is getting hidden behind stuff, just move that cheetah to the top of the list. Okay, let's zoom in here on the, oops, did not mean to do that. In fact, that reminds me, file and save. We got to save often. Make sure you guys are saving your work as you go. There we go. So now I want to get these spots. So if I go to the magic wand again, but I actually unclick, actually I'll keep it clicked. When I click in a spot, it grabs that area, and then I can just click around into these spots. Just click the ones that you want. Didn't mean to do that. Okay, but we're going to do a different approach. Okay, remember my feather is set to like 8 pixels, so that's pretty cool. All right, watch this. While that's selected, I'm going to make the cheetah invisible. And I'm going to create a new blank layer. Okay, I'll zoom out a little bit. I'm going to create a new blank layer. So I can go to Layer, New, Layer. That'd be a way to do it. And you can see at the top, I have a layer that's empty. How about I name this Spots? Okay, so there's nothing on this layer, but this area is selected. So if I go to my brush tool with black, I can actually paint inside those spots black, just like that. Okay, now I can hit Command D and deselect, go to my move tool with the letter V, and now I can move the spots wherever I want them. Okay, pretty cool. So mine are very fuzzy because when I did the selection, my feather was set to 8 pixels. If yours was not set to feather at all, that's okay. You might have some choppy looking spots. All you have to do then is go to Filter, Blur, and use a Gaussian blur on it to give them a little bit of a fuzz. But I think it looks cool when they're a little bit fuzzy. Now from here, we can go ahead and resize these spots. You can angle them, change all kinds of things about them. Okay. Maybe I want them to seem like they're bulging a little bit. So there's another step, I think Photopea has it, under Filter, Distort, and then Spherize. That's the one. I'm going to hit Spherize. And what Spherize does is it like makes it look like it's on a sphere. And you can control the degree to which it seems like it's on a sphere. That looks pretty cool. I'll hit OK. And then if there's something I don't like, I can just go to my eraser, or we could put a raster mask on it, but I can go to the eraser tool. Maybe I don't like this one right here, I'll get rid of that. Maybe I don't like this one right here, I'll get rid of that. Okay, and then the last thing I like to do with the spots is I'm going to change the opacity down just a little bit to like maybe 80%. And that makes the spots look like they're sort of under the skin of the apple. It's more realistic in a way. Okay. So before I go any further, I'm going to hit save. And then the last thing I'm going to do on this lesson is really subtle. I want to give a lip of light around the mouth of the apple. It's so subtle. It's hard, you don't even think to do it, but you're going to see that it makes it look so much better. So I'm going to create a new blank layer, new layer, and I'll call this highlight. Now on this, with this, I'll go to my brush, and I'm going to switch to white. And then I will shrink my brush down. I'm going to draw a line. Actually, I'm going to undo and make my brush a little smaller than that. There we go. Kind of starting at this highlight up here, I'm going to draw this line out here around the outside. Now it looks really silly right now. Don't worry. Like that. Now that I drew this line, I'm going to blur it. I go to Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. And I'm going to increase the blur substantially. That looks pretty too much. I want it to look like just a little bit of extra light right there. That's good. But it is a little intense. So now I'm going to go on this highlight layer and lower the opacity to just like that. It's very subtle. It's not something you look at. Like, you can see the difference when you turn the layer on and off. Now, if I feel like there's too much spilled over, I can put a raster mask on that layer, switch back to black with my brush, increase it, and with a soft brush, you can just sort of take it off of the lips a little bit. See how I'm doing that? Right along the lips, make the lips little so they're not as impacted by that highlight if it blurred over. Maybe I'll lower the opacity of that brush and just sort of take a little bit out down there. There we go. So when I zoom out, I turn that layer on and off, you can see what a difference it makes in adding realism to the apple itself. It's really cool. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and save this, and that will end the lesson today. Just get about as far as you can get during your allotted work time for today. And we'll be ready to move forward on the next lesson. Have a good day.